Donald Trump gave what I believe to be the most despicable speech, at least in years, yesterday in West Palm Beach at Club 47. That really says a lot because Donald Trump has given a lot of really despicable speeches. But he went right after Joe Biden with regards to the Hamas terrorist attack against Israel. Later, you'll see how he actually turns on Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. And it's all because it's all about Trump. That's really what matters. But this truly was such a deranged and demented speech that it reminds us Trump, the first Trump term, if Trump gets a second one, may seem like patty cake compared to what may be facing the country and the world if Trump gets another 4 years. Here is Trump going right after Joe Biden, saying Biden tossed Israel to the bloodthirsty jihadis. Take a listen to this.
And I fought for Israel like no president in history, but then crooked Joe Biden came along and tossed Israel to the bloodthirsty jihadists. That's what happened. He gave them, no, he wouldn't even call up the prime minister. They called him. It's a very sad thing. When you look at what happened, what a difference a president makes.
Now, of course, everything Trump says is usually a lie. And he makes no actual explanation as to what exactly Joe Biden did. But he's on the bandwagon, which is it's Biden's fault. What Hamas did is Biden's fault. Trump then praising Hezbollah, calling the terrorist group very smart. Why is it Trump can't stop praising terrorists? Either because it's convenient to his political narrative or because he's genuinely impressed with dictators and terrorists. Listen to this, horrifying the world. It would have been inconceivable at one point for a former or sitting American president to say something like this.
And then 2 nights ago, I read all of Biden's security people. Can you imagine? National defense people.
By the way, Trump doesn't read, so the idea that he read anything is very difficult to believe.
And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it.
Whoa.
You know, I said that President Xi of China, 1.4 billion people, he controls it with an iron fist. I said, he's a very smart man.
Right.
They killed me the next day. I said he was smart. What am I going to say? But Hezbollah, they're very smart.
Yeah, I mean, terrorists and dictators, it's not so much that they're smart, it's that they're brutal.
And they have a national defense minister or somebody saying, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack us from the north. So the following morning they attacked. They might not have been doing it, but if you listen to this jerk, you would attack from the north because he said that's our weak spot.
And if you think Trump is sounding increasingly unintelligible here, you're completely correct. This insanity continued. After praising Hezbollah as smart, Trump makes the claim that Joe Biden is letting terrorists into the country because of Barack Hussein Obama. What does that mean? I don't know. I guess Hussein, because Barack Obama's middle name is Hussein. Joe Biden's letting terrorists in. How this relates to Hamas attacking Israel, I don't know. And then Trump swears, which the crowd loves it when Trump swears.
Instead of keeping terrorists and terrorist sympathizers out of America, the Biden administration is inviting them in. You know why? Because he's got a boss. Who's his boss? Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Remember the great Rush Limbaugh? Barack Hussein Obama. Here you go, Barack Hussein Obama. Hello, Lee. Unbelievably, the corrupt Biden Department of Justice recently invited an Iranian-backed judge from Iraq to visit our nation's capital. Isn't that nice? He couldn't have been too impressed with our capital. It looks like shit.
The crowd just loves it, loves it, loves it, loves it when Donald Trump swears. Now, that's straight up xenophobia. When the late Rush Limbaugh used to do that, he did do that routine that Trump cites, Barack Hussein Obama. Oh, Hussein. Oh, my goodness. When Rush Limbaugh did that, it was straight up xenophobia. It was, that's the name of someone who is an other, who could not possibly have the interests of the United States as a priority. That's what they mean by Hussein. Hussein is a code for that. Ann Coulter used to do President Hussein. That's the guy who has our interest in mind. President Hussein. It's just xenophobia. That's all it is. It's basic standard xenophobia. Trump claims that if Joe Biden had not stolen the election from him, Hamas never would have attacked Israel on Saturday.
And if the election wasn't rigged, there would be nobody even thinking about going into Israel. The election was rigged.
And of course, Hamas famously decides whether to attack Israel based on who was elected president in the United States years earlier. It's feeling a little bit shaky as a political theory. Trump did bring back the trans weightlifting routine. This is a very transphobic portion of Trump's speeches. He doesn't always do this, but he did do it yesterday.
So I'll do it just a quickie for you, okay, if you don't mind. So she gets down, she goes up, oh. And her parents are just so proud of her. And she's getting ready to make the last move. And she can't do it.
There you go. Crowd, I guess liking it a little bit less than normal, maybe getting a little bored with that routine. As Trump has been claiming with Russia and Ukraine, that if he were president in 24 hours, he would end that war. How? We never know. I guess he would tell them they got to settle.
Got to settle.
There it is. Trump also says that he will stop the Israel-Hamas war, I guess right away, if you elect him president. How? Again, we just don't know.
I withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal and imposed the toughest ever sanctions on the murderous Iranian regime. They never had it so bad. We decimated their finance and choked off the money to pay to the terrorist thugs. And look what happened now. I was also proud to be the best friend Israel has ever had in the White House by far.
All right. So Trump just kind of a free word association there. And then lastly, going after Joe Biden even further. And at the end of the day, everything's Biden's fault from this perspective.
With crooked Joe Biden, you have chaos, bloodshed, war, terror, and death. Look what's happening today. Because the occupant of the White House is a laughingstock. All over the world, America's enemies cannot believe how lucky they got. They got real lucky. Every monster, villain, dictator, and terrorist, and there are plenty of them. I know most of them. I got to know a lot of them. All over the planet, they're having a field day because they know they will never have it better than they do with Crooked Joe, who in many cases receive money from those countries. I wonder what that's all about.
I know that many of us have become desensitized to this sort of rhetoric. But this is truly deranged rhetoric. The idea that it is Joe Biden's fault that Putin invaded Ukraine. The idea that it is Joe Biden's fault that Hamas launched a terrorist attack against Israel. That it is Joe Biden's fault because he had money released in exchange for some hostages. The idea that every ill, not just in the United States, but in the world, is Joe Biden's fault is one of the most corrosive things that can be said, particularly by former presidents. I don't believe there's any magic rule where former presidents shouldn't criticize current presidents. You know, George W. Clinton with Bush and Bush with Obama and Obama to some degree with Trump. There's these conventions. You know, I'm not going to get in the way. I know how difficult these jobs are. Even if I see things not being done right, I'm going to kind of keep my mouth shut. This is something completely different. And more benignly, you know, there's the gas prices game. Well, the gas prices are high because of Biden. They're really not. But that is a different thing than saying all of the geopolitical ills and the aggressiveness of the world, it's all because of Joe Biden. If China goes into Taiwan, it will have been because Joe Biden is weak on China. This is actually bad for everybody. And this is actually bad for national security as well, because Trump is pushing. If Trump's priority were a strong United States by the standards he uses to determine that, you wouldn't want to be exposing the supposed weaknesses of the United States in this way. But remember, Trump only cares about himself. He cares only about defending his actions. And he cares so much about that he actually went after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's talk about that next. Anxiety and depression are mental health challenges that affect millions of Americans. 32% of American adults have reported symptoms of anxiety or depression But finding the right treatment can be tough. You might have tried things already, might have not been enough, might have not been the right fit. Maybe medications you tried had side effects you didn't like. There is an alternative treatment for anxiety and depression that's shown promising results for many, and that's ketamine therapy. Our sponsor, MindBloom, is a leading provider of at-home ketamine therapy. They have a team of licensed doctors and therapists who guide you through the process. Ketamine therapy is based on scientific research that shows it's generally safe and well tolerated without many of the side effects of some other traditional medications. 89% of MindBloom patients report improvements in anxiety or depression after just 2 sessions. And MindBloom has a special offer for my audience. You can get $100 off your first 6-session program by going to mindbloom.com/Pacman and using the code Pacman. The link is in the description.